Greetings everyone, I am RSV. Why did Kaiser seemingly flop compared to base game craftables like Union, like Atlas or Klaus or Trailblazer or even Liberate? Let's discuss. And I know a lot of people will point out that the Rugged Weapon series is a good reason why Kaiser seems to have flopped. For a lot of people, the fact that Kaiser is clearly weaker than the Rug series really kills the weapon series for them. And while I understand that, that isn't the primary reason why the Kaiser series is doing so poorly in reception compared to, say, Union, which had similar problems. And yes, I will be primarily talking about base game here from the global perspective. And I think that's fair, since weapons in base game were invalidated just as fast, if not faster, than in NGS. So let's converse. The first thing I want to talk about is weapon potential. And well, all of the weapon potentials on this list are just straight up more interesting than what we got on Kaiser. Granted, in the case of Liberate is just better Kaiser. The Liberate potential is literally the Kaiser potential, but with more stats. So why did Liberate do better? Well, I'll get onto that in a moment, but let's talk about Klaus, Atlas, and Trailblazer first. Klaus or Crass changed the way that you play the game. And in addition to this, Klaus was the last weapon that we got in Pso2 base game. So I believe personally that Klaus did better than Kaiser did purely because nothing outclassed it. It is still to this day the strongest weapon in base game. So I want to focus more on Liberate, Atlas, Trailblazer, and Union. Atlas and Trailblazer are actually kind of interesting in this book because even though Crass or Klaus outgraded both of them, they were both still meta defining. Why? Because their potentials were still useful in endgame content even if you had a Lightweaver weapon. Trailblazer had the effect to fully restore your PP pool, and Atlas was a free revive should you need it, and you could use reviving to avoid dangerous mechanics. Or if you find yourself in a pickle and that you're going to die. For example, if you're frozen against Sodom, you can switch to an Atlas weapon to avoid dying. But then there's Union, and Union on this list I want to talk about primarily. However, I want to talk about S-augments, and the reason for this is, and while S-augments are not in the game currently, I think that they are sorely missed from NGS currently, as they added more interesting mechanics to your weapon. So it'd be kind of hard to balance them, I feel, because we do have limited augment slots. But S-augments are sorely missed, I feel, because they do make weapons more fun and add a layer of progression beyond just regular augmenting. But augments like Escalating Pursuit, Petal Gleam, they all benefited the player in a way that is hard to explain in some cases, giving us crit on our augments, allowing us to reach 100% crit rate on classes that couldn't otherwise. There is a lot of potential in augmenting that we just don't have in NGS currently, and I think that really lets down these weapons as well. And not just Kaiser in that book, and on top of that, not just with S-augment, but regular augments as well, because this is where we talk about the Union series. Now, the Union series in base game was, like Kaiser, highly overshadowed by Nemesis and Raven. But a better comparison would be to the Ziggs series, which the Ziggs series was a rare drop like the Rugged Weapon. There's something even more special about the Union series. And anyone who has played base game knows that that thing that is special about it is Astral Soul. Astral Soul causes the Union series to be useful regardless of whether or not you have a Nemesis weapon, a Ziggs weapon, or even a weaker series. Because of this, the Union series remains relevant to this day, granting easy access to Astral Soul, which is needed for the meta augment Guardian Soul. You see, this is value that has been lost due to the new augment system. Since augments don't show up on weapons or units anymore, we lose value on those weapons because those weapons are just seen as trash. They don't have augments on them. We can't interact with augments already on a weapon, and on top of that, these items that drop, getting 4 Resurgia at the end of an urgent quest is just wasted. Now, what if they could drop with Mastery 3 on them, and we could upgrade Mastery 3 into Mastery 4 by combining them, even if it was a low chance? The reality is, I feel, and a huge portion of this is, that the change to augment has affected the Kaiser series as well, because they could have put a special augment on it that it retains and gives it an edge. What if Kaiser came with, say, Mastery 4 on it. You could consume that weapon into a Rug series weapon, and it would still be useful. Or even if it came with something weaker, like a soul that had all the potencies on it, made just for that weapon. Maybe it could be called Kaiser Soul. But there is something else that the Kaiser series doesn't have in common with these weapons. And all of these weapons involved getting resources via fighting, and actually fighting things. Not to mention, all of these resources weren't random. You knew exactly where to get them, and the resources that were random were pretty abundant and easy to buy anyway. Ultimately, it does make me wonder a bit what SEGA thought they were doing when they brought out the Kaiser series. Personally, I believe they could have made a really well received weapon, but chose not to for whatever reason. And I honestly have no idea why they've done it this way. But I've been RSV. Why do you personally think that Kaiser seems to be failing? But I'll see you next time.